From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is a lunch hour news blast. LGBTQ Nation is reporting, and before I even begin reading this, please buckle up because it's going to be a bumpy ride. The U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments Tuesday in a case that will determine if a law banning so-called conversion therapy in Colorado is constitutional. Multiple conservative justices who have their heads up their asses implied in their questioning that they believe it is not. Colorado and over 20 other states have banned the harmful and debunked practice aimed at changing the sexual orientation or gender identity of young people. In 90 minutes worth of barragement, the justices debated the so-called conversion therapy ban by Colorado's law causes harm to minors, is in any way effective in its intended purpose to turn kids straight, or is an infringement on the First Amendment rights of its practitioners, aka the bigots. Alliance Defending Freedom, the anti-LGBTQ plus far-right organization behind the suit, is representing Kaylee Childs, a licensed Colorado bullshit artist who is Christian, of course she is, and contends the ban violates her First Amendment rights to discuss her faith with patients, which nobody really wants to hear. Colorado countered that the case is based on hypothetical infringement of her free speech, which she doesn't really have, since the state has not disciplined Childs or anyone else based on the law passed by Colorado lawmakers in 2019. The state contended there is a mountain of evidence since the Nazi era that conversion therapy is ineffective and harmful. Colorado's statute prohibits any practice or treatment that tries to change a minor's gender expressions or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attraction or feelings toward individuals of the same sex. The law includes a religious exemption for those engaged in the practice of religious ministry, aka bigotry or bullshit. Jim Campbell, ADF's chief legal counsel, described the therapy that Childs provides as bullshit, but helpful for clients when their goals are to resolve gender dysphoria by getting comfortable with their body and realigning their identity with their sex. Childs helps them if they're experiencing unwanted same-sex attraction. That's because of their parents or grandparents, and if their goal is to reduce it, he told the justices, which is total crap. Colorado is investigating anonymous complaints against Childs, he said, producing ongoing harm every day for his client, which I'm sure they do. Ms. Childs is being silenced, and the kids and families who want her help are unable to access it. No one should be able to access it, I say. Shannon W. Stevenson, Colorado State Solicitor Attorney General, whatever his title is, doesn't really matter to me, answered questions from the conservative justices over the care in question and whether it's harmful to patients. Yes, it is. Asked by Justice Amy Coney Barrett about the harm conversion therapy may inflict, all she'd need to do is go back and read documents from the Nazi era, but she won't. Stevenson pointed to suicide attempts rates, and they're doubling for subjects of the practice, as well as increased suicidal ideation and adverse mental health outcomes for adults who had experienced attempts to change gender identity in childhood. Again, the harm comes from the aversive practice. It comes from telling someone that there's something innate about yourself that you can change, and then you spend all kinds of time and bullshit and effort trying to do that, and you fail. In her opening remarks, Stevenson told the justices that this court has recognized that state power is at its apex when it regulates to ensure safety in the healthcare professions, but they've never done that in almost any other profession. Colorado's law lies at the bullseye center of this protection because it prohibits licensed professionals from performing one specific treatment because that treatment doesn't work, and it carries a great risk of harm. Justice Uncle Ruckus, however, told Stevenson he believes that the law oversteps in that capacity of protection and appears to be what he called prior restraint on speech. Except Justice Uncle Ruckus wouldn't know about freedom of speech because, he's a... Well, I digress. In violation of the Constitution's First Amendment, Justice Samuel Alito, aka Slippery Slope, questioned Stevenson about whether the standard of care recommended by the medical establishment, which overwhelmingly disavows conversion therapy ever since 1946, could be a moving target swayed by ideology. No, it can't. As an example, Alito cited Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr.'s majority opinion in Buck v. Bell in 1927, which said, a sterilization program was better for all the world because 3 generations of imbeciles are enough, which goes for the Supreme Court as well. Alito implied homosexuality itself might go out of fashion in time. It won't, and trust me, Alito, you know nothing about fashion. Suppose an adolescent male comes to a licensed therapist and says he's attracted to other males, but feels uneasy because of his parents and guilty about those feelings, again because of his parents, and wants to end or lessen them, and asks for the therapist's help in doing so because the parents warned him to. Under your under your version of the statute, is that banned? Well, if the therapist told him or asked him, can I become straight? The answer would be yes, it would be banned. If it was, can you help me cope with my feelings as to how I am and how I want to live my life, that's permitted. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association reversed a nearly century-old position maintaining homosexuality as a mental disorder. The change removed the legal basis for a wide range of discriminatory practices and undercut the rationale at the time for conversion therapy. However, Justices Uncle Ruckus and Samuel Alito slept through that particular year, and 1974 and 1975, and well, you get the point. California became the first state to bar licensed mental health professionals from providing therapy aimed at changing sexual orientation or gender identity for minors. New Jersey, by the way, was the second. 24 other states and dozens of cities and counties followed between 2015 and 2024. 8 of these bans were signed by Republican governors, and every bill was passed with Republican support, according to a study by the Trevor Project and the Movement Advance Project. Even Republican Governor Gary Herbert of Utah signed a ban in 2019 saying, the stories of youth who have endured these so-called therapies are heartrending. And frankly, so are the stories that come out of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Museum. And you would know that if you paid any damn attention to your history lessons back in high school. And if this story affected you, just know you are not alone. The Trans Life Hotline offers support to trans and non-binary people struggling with mental health from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Call 877-565-8860. That number again, 877-565-8860 to be connected to a trans and non-binary peer operator and receive full anonymity and confidentiality. The Trevor Project Lifeline for LGBTQ plus youth ages 24 and younger can be reached at 866-488-7386. That number again, 866-488-7386, and that number happens to be posted on the homepage of the Pennsylvania Equality Project's website. That's the News Blast at this hour. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.